Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm going to say it twice because technical difficulty once again. Welcome, welcome, welcome into the room with a special agenda. And today's discussion is on the severity of sleep deprivation and how it can affect you physically and mentally, how it affects your mind and body. Most people think that you can push your body to the limit and you don't worry so much about it. You worry about it as you get older because people don't realize how severe it is. And sometimes it's often a symptom of something that they cannot control, which is mental illness um, and learning issues. Most times people think that if you just go to bed, you'll be fine. Where some people suffer and have suffered for majority of their life with sleep issues, without making any connections to it. And oftentimes it's not something that we go into depth in conversation with our doctors unless it is something that um, we haven't got a handle on and it's getting out of control. Most people don't realize that it is a symptom often of people who have ADHD and other learning disabilities. I did not figure it out with my son until he got older and did not recognize it in my daughter until as well. Um, I spoke to my doctor about it, but they never said that this was a symptom of other learning issues because without proper sleep, you cannot retain anything. Um, Most people who have bouts of sleep issues, where they insomnia, they struggle with their memory. And most people don't make that connection that that's what's happening is their body has problems with their circadian rhythm. Or your circadian rhythm is the cycle in which your body processes day and night, and that 24-hour period in which you get rest. And many people have it without thinking that there's anything going on with them, except maybe they had too much caffeine, they associate it with stress, or they just have gotten used to it without no realizing that they need a solution to it and why they need a solution to it. For my daughter, we did not know that. I knew that she was having problems sleeping. I did not know that it could even have been something that was going on with her as a fetus. When they're inside of you, most people don't make those mental connections. They think, oh, this baby just does not like to sleep, or we don't think much about it. I do know for the first part of her life, she literally woke up, it seemed, every 45 minutes. To a parent that is nursing and has went back to work, it felt like being waterboarded. It was felt like Russian torture because I was nursing her, and she was definitely getting enough to eat, but she wasn't getting any sleep, and she also had sensory issues on top of that. Um, Most people don't recognize that or realize that majority, more than 80% of people who have ADHD have sleep issues. People who have issues with dyslexia, other learning disorders, and it's all associated with that circadian rhythm and the way that their body processes that and what they need. That serotonin that they don't get in their body, which is they're not processing and going through those stages of sleep that they need and realm. Um, I've spoken to people who said that they don't dream, and I thought, how is that possible? It's because every 90 minutes during the sleep cycle, your body it starts over. Again, there are several stages in which you go through, and then it starts over. That is the point in which you dream and uh, process. And I noticed, like, my husband had told me years ago that he didn't dream. And I thought, how is that possible? That you never dream. He said when he was a kid, he pretended to dream. I said, what? Who doesn't dream? And then I realized he wasn't sleeping like other people slept. I remember in the very beginning of our marriage, and us having had that conversation, because once you get married and you're living together now, you discuss your sleep habits, because it's important that you both rest, and processing how you rest determines how y'all gonna get along. Are you gonna constantly be woke up? Or are you gonna constantly be waking them up? Are they gonna have a problem getting to sleep? Will you go to sleep at the same time? What do you require to go to sleep? Do you have sensory things that you need to do to have like that perfect um, sleep situation so that you can properly rest? Because some people need, like, they need the air to be right, they need their bed to be right, they need their pillow to be right, they need the lighting to be right, they need everything to be a certain way so that they can have that perfect, that trifecta, as they will, that what you put it together, that those three things that will, or however many situations they need that are put together so that they can rest properly and have uninterrupted sleep until they wake up. And for him, I noticed that when he did go to sleep, he would wake up and I think, oh, he's dreaming. And I'd hear him talking, but he was fully awake. He wasn't dreaming. He was just fully awake, and he kept waking up. So instead of him sleeping completely through, what was happening was, in every 90 minutes, instead of him dropping into REM sleep, he would wake up instead. Instead of, and then it would just keep repeating. So he had issues with sleep, and he seemed to require less sleep because he wasn't going through that REM process. And for many people, when they have those things happen, they don't, that without sleeping properly, it those deficiencies, it causes certain things to happen. And for other people, depends on the level of severity for them, it creates eating disorders. People suffer from anger management issues, depression. Um, for many people, even drug abuse problems are results of alcoholism or aggression, and those severe forms of insomnia because of those deficits. The effects of not getting proper sleep, and those, it affects everything down to having what people call sleep paralysis, where your body at some point will shut down. I had a manager once who explained to me that even as children, he and his twin brother, and I won't tell you what company because I was told not to speak to other people about it because that's how he felt about it. And this was a very large company. Um, he told me that even he and his twin brother, for years, they had been adopted, but they did not sleep. At the most, in a full day cycle, even as infants, they slept almost 2 hours. And now you have to wonder, how did that affect the dynamic of their household? Because you have two twin toddlers that aren't sleeping. How does that affect their growth? Um, and then you have to wonder, how do parents survive that? Because most people know that when their children get to the age of being 2, even before that, as they become mobile, your sleep falls off, just for the purpose of concern for their safety, uh, fear of something happening to them, fear of them getting into something, fear of them destroying your house. You wake up in every running faucet in your house is on. So those are the concerns that you have with small children. So one wondered how their family survived those matters. What did they do? Well, he told me that they gave them medication with the attempt of helping them to sleep. And he said the medications had side effects. And all that it added to their sleep experience was 15 minutes. 15 minutes of sleep. That's all the extra sleep that they got. So they took them off the medication because it had other side effects that didn't seem to help what was going on with them. Um, most people don't realize that without those that sleep, how it affects our body is sometimes besides just shutting down, there are other things that are happening, and that those signs that should be watched. For instance, if you start to notice that in your child, you will notice learning issues. So it's important to get help and get a developmental pediatrician because lots of times they won't say anything if you do not mention it to them and you automatically assume that it is something naturally happening. um, you'll miss your window of getting the help that you need for them. So it is something that you really need to look into. Most people who have children that do have developmental delays, you'll notice that they will wake up. It's important to have a camera in their room. People think that even as they get older, you want to start paying attention to that because they may never say anything to you. I did not know that my son was up at night while we were asleep. I started to notice that I would catch him sometimes watching TV or something. A couple of times he was even in our room on Big Bowl on the computer with us asleep. And I was like, what's going on? Without realizing, wait, he's awake. Not because he's just awake to do something. He's awake because he can't sleep. See, oftentimes we assume that our children are awake because they're ready to get into something and they just wait for you to go to sleep. No, they're having problems sleeping. If you notice that your child is awake at times they shouldn't be, rather than be angry that they're awake, you might need to put it into perspective of just as adults struggle to sleep, sometimes they do too. And that might be a sign that they're not having behavioral issues just because they are misbehaving. They're having behavioral issues because their body is not giving them what they need. You would not get upset if they had something else going on that they could not control. Like if you notice that your child was having stomach pains all the time or constantly having headaches, you would look into what was going on. If they had a seizure, something severe, you would look into what's causing this. Why is my child having a seizure? You would not try to find fault with them, particularly because it is beyond their control. So we need to look into it in that matter and from that perspective to start to analyze if my child is not sleeping and they're what we say, oh, they're a night owl. They might not necessarily be a night owl. They might be having problems sleeping, and they won't recognize sometimes what you don't recognize because they're not in a position to diagnose themselves. And as parents, sometimes we'll just miss it. So sometimes we need to take the time to, as I said, put a camera in their room, not for the purpose of monitoring or sometimes even a pressure pad. And I say that from because I used to work for an alarm company, just for the purpose of knowing when they're up, not to correct them, but just so that you can get an idea. They even have other things that they have movement pads that you can order online and put in their bed if you don't want to be overly invasive, just to see how many times they're turning over. It'll let you know when they're waking up for the purpose of you just kind of keeping a log. And then maybe you can have a conversation with them later on what's happening with them. Are you waking up? And then just kind of not in the position of you're a physician, but you kind of want to know what's happening with, okay, you're up. Were you upset about something? Did something happen? If they toss and turn a lot, meaning they're not going to sleep, they're not having good restfulness. Something's happening to keep them awake. And if they're not having a problem where that's keeping them awake, and you notice that this is happening frequently, you may need to consult their pediatrician, a physician, or if that's something that you're experiencing, you need to consult your physician because it affects everything down to your heart. Many people don't know that sleep problems run in families, it is hereditary. And I can say that because my mother has narcolepsy and she has also sleep apnea, which I realized that one of my aunts also had. I don't know who else had it, but I do know because they were close together, and I happened to see before my aunt died years ago that she had a sleep machine, a sleep apnea machine, before she was diagnosed with cancer or anything. All of those things determine how your body processes. That circadian rhythm is something serious that we don't realize that if we don't address that matter, if it's not something that we take care of, um, we miss out on so much of having good health. And also, it can cause us to have mental health issues if we don't already are manifesting those things and it's not something that we're diagnosed with. Other things will start to happen. It can cause you to have hallucinations. Um, Most people don't realize that not getting the proper sleep at the time that you need it frequently, and we think, oh, it's okay, and we're working two jobs, which for some people depends on the lifestyle that they're leading or what goals they're trying to accomplish may be necessary. They may need to restructure the way that they're doing their life because it can cause you to have anger management problems. It can cause you to have bouts of aggression. It can cause you to have severe depression because of not getting the rest that you need. And if it's not something that you are creating in and of your own, and you're just missing sleep because you want to miss sleep, you're missing sleep because your body isn't allowing you to go to sleep. You need to consult someone so that other things don't start to happen. Because not getting that sleep also causes other things to happen. It can cause you to have heart problems. I did not realize that it can cause you to have problems with your diabetes. It can cause you to have an aneurysm. Constantly not having a sleep doesn't allow your clock to reset. I'll put it like this. Your phone, your sleep is your phone being recharged. Is your body being recharged? And if your phone battery is dying, it's because it's been on too long and you didn't plug it up to a power source. Sleep is your body's power source. And if your charger does not work for your body, meaning you're not getting the sleep and the room sleep that you need, your body will start to shut down on its own. It will start to glitch. It will start to freeze, if you will. And so that's what's happening with other mental health problems that people don't realize, like people who have schizophrenia, most times have sleep issues. Their circadian rhythms are real off, and many times they don't sleep for sometimes bouts of weeks. I didn't start to recognize it and start to think back further back for my daughter until she started to develop other mental health issues that I started to notice. When I started getting woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning with her telling me things that she thought I said when I know I hadn't said anything because I was asleep. And I was going, what's happening here? But then I realized she was awake and she had been awake for some time. She was having bouts of not being asleep and I wasn't aware. I told her to go to bed. I thought she went to bed. The light went out, but she never actually went to sleep. And then I started to stay awake when she was staying awake because she wasn't allowing me to go to sleep. And then I started to realize what her sleep routine had come to be. As I noticed, she was also becoming more agitated. So I began to realize that she was awake for sometimes a day or two. We realized too that there was a certain medications that she could not take that affected that. We realized that the active ingredient in Benadryl, rather than it making her sleep, had the opposite effect. She had a reaction to something she'd eaten once when she was little. She has a lot of allergies, like her dad. But the one allergy that she had in particular was she had some nuts. Um, she's outgrown it to some degree. Like she can have peanut butter, but pecans was a problem for her. So we gave her some Benadryl. She was awake technically for 2 days because after bedtime, we counted. It was more than 20 hours with her literally kicking the wall for 20 hours. We were trying to get this child to go to sleep. That's why I said it was like being waterboarded. I had not experienced that. And then as she got older, I noticed the other things that were starting to happen. And when I spoke to her doctor about it, they explained when I asked and when I went into depth about the issues that we were having, and then I started to do my own research too. They explained that part of it was related to the issues that she had, the diagnosis that she had. She has autism, but she has some other mental health issues, so schizophrenia, bipolar. Um, those issues, they're not getting the serotonin that their body needs, and they're definitely not getting the melatonin either. And they sell that over the counter. Most people who have autism, often their body does not produce the amount of melatonin that they need, and as they become teenagers, it's almost like because their body is going through so many changes, metabolic, biological, those changes affect their sleep routine also. And it's like having, I'll give you the example of your phone again. Having your phone on with all the apps running together. Like if you had every single app on, it's going to drain faster. Even with your charger on and you're trying to run all these apps, even if you're not only using one app, the other apps are still open. So everything's running at one time. Everything's running at one time. And your phone is dying while trying to be charged. So what's happening is you're getting glitches. You're getting glitches everywhere. So that's kind of the process of what's happening with their sleep routine. They are being depleted more than they're being charged. So they're not getting what they need, and the body is requiring what it needs more of, is actually getting less of. So what's happening is you're getting more diagnoses at the same time. I'm sorry, throat so dry. You're getting more diagnosis because more things are starting to happen. So besides their body developing and going through puberty, other things are going, all their synapses are going off at one time. And when they're supposed to be resting, because of all of those things running at one time, they're not being allowed to shut down when they need to because of the things that are going on genetically with them and their diagnosis and their those issues. So with those things happening, they don't get the rest that they need. It's not happening. So for ourselves, it's so important that we look into that. Make sure that you no longer overlook the fact that you're not getting the rest that you need, that your loved ones aren't getting the rest of the sleep. Don't assume that everybody is just deciding not to sleep, or they're just overly stressed, or they just can't sleep. There may be bigger issues. So it's important that you look into that for your children. Check into it with their doctor. If this continues and their doctors don't give you the answers, particularly when you have children that you know already have issues, make sure that you request a developmental pediatrician. And for yourselves, make sure you ask to speak to a neurologist. Get a referral for a neurologist because it is crucial for your mental health that you take care of that. Thank you all for tuning in today with a special agenda. I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Make sure that you let your loved ones know that they are not your burden. They are the loves that mean everything to you. And for the people that you are trying to be kind to, that may not even want you to be their friend, be kind, even if you don't feel like it and they're being not being kind to you, because it is a choice. You all have a wonderful evening. Okay.